The world is an enigmatic realm indeed. Amongst the myriad fast food establishments, McDonald's stands as the most triumphant. While not necessarily the epitome of health, it undeniably boasts convenience and delectable offerings. Yet, even within the façade of the cheerfully feigned atmosphere, perilous shadows and unsettling horrors can lie concealed. Specters loom in unsuspected corners, unsavory individuals and eerie strangers observe us from a distance, and enigmatic entities bide their time to ensnare us. Thus, to ensure that your dreams are haunted by a plethora of locations, here are 5 authentic eerie tales from McDonald's, contributed by Spectators. Should the burgers fail to be your demise, rest assured, there's always something else waiting in the wings. Drive-through phantoms, as reported by Maynard in 2015. I toiled at my local McDonald's for approximately 4 months. Indeed, it was a brief tenure. I prefer to entertain the notion that a superior opportunity awaits me beyond the realm of swift nourishment. Additionally, this encounter certainly didn't kindle a desire within me to prolong my stay. Undoubtedly, it stands as the eeriest occurrence I've ever undergone. Striving to ingratiate myself and ascend swiftly, I informed the supervisors that I was available to assume any shift they required and could substitute for any absenteeism. Necessitated by financial reasons, I yearned for more hours, the greater, the better. Well, one evening around 8 p.m., just before my customary bedtime, hooray, I received a call from my workplace. A person from the night shift had reached out, exuding irritation and fatigue. Tentatively, I consented to assume the shift and rose to prepare myself. I had never engaged in overnight labor before, either at that particular McDonald's nor at any of my preceding employments. I was somewhat thrilled. I mean, it was nighttime. The influx of customers would likely be halved, and the manager in charge was John, the most easygoing individual on staff. A simple way to earn money. Upon my arrival around 8:30, they were swamped. I punched in and diligently attended to the multitude of patrons in the dining area. By 10:30, the abrupt surge had subsided, and the establishment was mostly vacant. The previous shift leader bid me farewell with nothing more than a "good luck," despite this being my inaugural night shift. Thus, it was just John and me. He seemed occupied with examining drawers or some such task, while I manned the drive-thru, front counter, and grill concurrently. Needless to say, I felt apprehensive. If too many individuals arrived, I would find myself in a bind. My drive-thru service time would plummet. Consequently, instead of retaining the calm I anticipated, I became overly absorbed, causing my heart to thump relentlessly throughout the entire night. In our eatery, though I cannot confirm whether this applies universally to every Mickey B's, our headsets emit a chime whenever a vehicle enters the drive-thru lane. It's a sort of pixelated bell tone that rapidly becomes quite vexing. And suddenly, that's precisely what I heard. Naturally, I extended a greeting to the customer. "Hello, welcome to McDonald's. How may I assist you today?" I articulated with a surfeit of feigned enthusiasm that even induced queasiness within me. The mechanism that informed us of a car's presence in the drive-thru lane, whether it was a sensor or a gauge, had the microphone prepped to capture the customer's voice as they placed their order. However, all that met my ears was white noise. No one responded, no words were uttered. I didn't even detect the hum of an idling engine. It was as if nobody occupied that space. Now, this wasn't excessively unusual. We've encountered this situation a few times since my commencement. The mechanism can be activated by a vehicle circling the establishment, or even a person strolling nearby. It was definitely in need of repair. I had no interest in being alerted every time someone wheeled the bins to the drive-thru while taking out the trash from the rear. After approximately 3 minutes of static, the microphone clicked off, indicating that whatever had triggered the weight sensor was no longer present. Finally, the incessant grating noise in my ear ceased. Yet, in less than a minute, it clicked on once more, the chime of the bell resounding loudly in my ear. I rolled my eyes and reiterated my salutation. "Hello, welcome to McDonald's. How may I assist you?" And once again, there was no response. This time, the microphone remained active for a more extended duration. I swear, at a certain juncture, I discerned heavy breathing and started to feel unsettled. At that instant, I was fairly certain that someone was outside attempting to play tricks on me. About 10 minutes later, it deactivated after I had been subjected to silence. I contemplated handing the headset to John and making him wear it, but my determined attitude got the best of me. I endeavored to divert my attention. I initiated the task of scouring the counters, despite them having already been wiped down, and assessed if any items in the dining area required replenishing. However, everything was in order. I needed to occupy myself. There was an undeniable sense of malevolence in the obscurity of the night just beyond those expansive windows of the dining area. When the bell chimed once more, I nearly swooned. It might have been wise to lower the volume on that headset. Before I could utter my perfunctory, insipid greeting, the most piercing, spine-chilling scream reached my ears. The instant that shriek reached my ears, I forcefully removed my headset and retreated from it. What on earth was that? With trembling hands, I cautiously placed the headset back on. I was both infuriated and petrified. Without a second thought, a mixture of anger and fear propelling me, I stormed out of the establishment and headed toward the drive-thru. I positioned myself right next to the menu board, yet there was no one in sight. Nevertheless, strangely, the static from my headset persisted. The microphone's transmission persisted. Whatever had triggered the drive-thru alert was evidently still present. And then I heard it. "I see you," a voice whispered deliberately through the microphone. I sprinted back inside as swiftly as humanly possible. I had been standing right beside the microphone. No one was there. No conceivable way anyone could have produced that sound. No one could have uttered those words to me. Returning to the illumination and comfort of the building, I sought refuge behind the counter. I located John, who was seated at the manager's desk, his head resting in his hand as he input dates into the forthcoming schedule. "What in the world was that?" I exclaimed more loudly than intended. He jolted in his seat and swiveled around. "Good grief, you startled me, man," I blurted out, my heart racing. "What's your game?" I questioned, feeling a mixture of anxiety and confusion. "What are you talking about?" "I haven't done anything," he responded, turning back to his computer. I felt a pang of guilt. I had just interrogated my amiable superior, the only enjoyable one among the bunch. I made my way to the front and positioned myself behind the counter, waiting aimlessly. It was around 1:30 when I glanced at the clock once more. We were about halfway through the graveyard shift. The night was dragging on so sluggishly. Eventually, I found myself standing in the drive-thru corner, a spot that allowed me to discreetly use my phone without being captured by the nearest camera. We had only served 2 customers in the past hour, making it even more sluggish than I had anticipated. So there I stood, leaning against the counter beside the POS computer, immersed in Clash of Clans and occasionally checking Facebook. Out of nowhere, I sensed a frigid draft on my forearm, sending shivers down my spine. I glanced toward the drive-thru window, noticing it was slightly ajar. I didn't pay it much heed and continued my digital interactions. Suddenly, a thunderous slam echoed through the air, causing me to drop my phone, which shattered upon impact with the ground. My heart raced, nearly causing me to have a panic attack. I frantically scanned the surroundings, searching for the source of the noise. The drive-thru window had been thrust wide open, yet I had been standing right beside it. I hadn't heard anyone run away or approach, and I most certainly hadn't seen anyone. So, who had just flung open the drive-thru window? I was done. I removed my headset and positioned myself in the kitchen, pretending to work while waiting for this dreadful shift to conclude. Whether or not any cars drove through the drive-thru, I couldn't have cared less at that point. I had no intentions of returning after that night. The remainder of the night, or morning, I suppose, elapsed without any further incidents. Never in my life had I encountered something so bizarre and terrifying. Standing there, right next to the microphone on that chilling night, then hearing those words whispered to me. It's a memory I'll never erase, and I'll do whatever it takes to evade working in the fast food industry. Horror movies? Forget about it. I know I'm in denial, but every day I pray that what I experienced that night was simply a prankster, not a ghost or a demon that decided to taunt me. However, if it truly was what I fear it was, I'm haunted by the possibility of it happening again, with nothing to thwart its recurrence. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.